On 24th of June this year, government launched a nationwide immunization program targeting 14-year-old girls to be vaccinated against human papilloma virus, which causes cervical cancer. In 2013, Zambia piloted HPV vaccination where over 50,000 9-year-old girls were vaccinated. As was the case in 2013, the 2019 vaccination has been gripped by myths and misconceptions. On this week's News In-Depth, Macpherson Mukuka addresses myths and misinformation surrounding the HPV vaccination while highlighting its benefits. I'm your host. My name is Katrishi Wadia. Stay tuned.
I was a peer educator, then I was teaching people in the community. That's when some people said, if you are teaching us now, have you been screened for cervical cancer? And I said no. Then I was forced to go and have the screening. The first screening was negative. But after a year, when I went for screening, it was found that it was positive. So it was on stage 2B. That's when I was referred to CIDA's Center of Excellence, where they got a biopsy, that which led to be cervical cancer stage 2B. Then from there, I was referred to BO2, where the doctors referred me for surgery.
She narrates the story about how she discovered that she had cervical cancer. 9 years ago, Rebecca Siambwati was diagnosed with cervical cancer stage 2B after undergoing a second test which came out positive. She, however, made a decision to have her cancerous cervix and other reproductive organs connected, surgically removed. That tough decision has paid off as Rebecca has lived a cancer-free life for nearly a decade.
So they operated me, they removed the cervix, uterus, fallopian tubes, and all the ovaries. Then from there, that's when I was referred to Cancer Disease Hospital. That's where I received certain treatments like radiotherapy. After radiotherapy, I did brachytherapy, then I was discharged. Yes, right now I'm a free lady. I've got no cells of cancer because it was detected at least a bit early.
Cervical cancer is a form of cancer that arises from the cervix. It occurs as a result of the abnormal growth of cells that invade and sometimes spread to other internal parts of the body. Symptoms are hard to detect in the early stages. Much later, symptoms that include abnormal vaginal bleeding, pelvic pain, or pain during sexual intercourse set in. Cases of cervical cancer in Zambia are alarming, and records show that Zambia has one of the highest incidences of cervical cancer in the world, with about 3,000 new cases reported every year in women contracting the preventable disease. And now, the disease is no longer an individual concern, but a national one.
What is even more worrying for Zambia is that Zambia is number 3 worldwide in terms of a country which is recording the most cervical cancer cases. So we are number 3 in the world. And you just need to go to Cancer Diseases Hospital, provincial hospitals, or a district hospital in Zambia. A month would not pass without a woman coming with advanced form of cervical cancer. And now, with the association between HIV and cervical cancer, we're even seeing younger women whom you didn't expect to get a cancer presenting to our hospitals, our health facilities, with advanced cervical cancer.
Other than recording a high incident rate, the statistics are worsened by the revelation that thousands of women in Zambia die every year from the disease. In some of the cases, late detection contributes. The revelation was made by Minister of Health Chitalu Chilufya during a ministerial statement in Parliament recently.
Over 1,800 women die from cervical cancer every year. And according to the Zambia National Cancer Registry, cervical cancer accounts for 24.8% of all new cancer cases in the adult population registered annually in the country. Mr. Speaker, cervical cancer is one of the most preventable and treatable forms of cancer. It, however, requires a comprehensive national strategy.
With a national face added to the killer but preventable cancer, we sought to establish what people know about the disease. Random interviews on the streets of Lusaka's Kalingalinga township brought out interesting information on people's knowledge about cervical cancer.
What I know about cervical cancer is it's normally common in women. Yes, I remember I was did I think 2 months ago. Yes, at the clinic in the Luangwa district. Yes, and I was told after I was cleaned, I was told that I should come back again for another checkup after 3 years.
It attacks the internal structures of the vagina. Sometimes it comes like a small pimple and then they spread everywhere. Okay. And it has a cure.
Cervical cancer is a cancer which affects the female folk, and it's caused by the papilloma virus, which is gotten from a male who is not circumcised. If you have unprotected sex with someone who is not circumcised, you are likely to get cervical cancer.
Among the causes of cervical cancer is the human papilloma virus, commonly referred to as HPV, a virus found underneath the foreskin of a man's sexual organ. The virus is transferred through direct contact during sexual intercourse or other forms of skin-to-skin contact of the genitals. The virus ends up residing and infecting the lower part of the womb called the cervix, which after a period of time becomes cancerous.
So what will happen is that as a result of the virus multiplying and causing damage to the cervix or the lower part of the womb, the cervix will become cancerous. And that's why you see a woman with cervical cancer will start feeling pain in the back. Some of them, they'll start bleeding during sexual intercourse or even without sexual intercourse. Others will start discharging watery fluid. Others, they'll get very, very wasted, emaciated, and they may die, especially when the cancer spreads.
While most HPV infections only cause warts on areas of the body, including the hands, feet, and genitals, there are certain strains that put a person at a higher risk of developing certain types of cancers. HPV can infect anyone who is sexually active, and quite often, infected persons do not show any symptoms of the virus. The negligible symptom was exactly what Rebecca experienced.
I went airy. I had no signs that I had the cervical cancer. But because I had a pain on the hip, that was the only thing that I saw that I had the cervical cancer after being screened. Otherwise, I didn't have, because it was silent on me. That's why we urge all women who are sexually active to go for cervical cancer screening. Well, it's airy because sometimes it has got no signs. Sometimes there are some signs, yes, like water discharge or prolonged periods and other things. Otherwise, cervical cancer is silent. That's why every woman should go for cervical cancer screening early.
National cervical cancer statistics has prompted the Zambian government to take action in reversing the trend. The starting point has been immunizing girls between the ages of 9 and 11 against cervical cancer. In 2013, the Zambian government rolled out a pilot program to vaccinate schoolgirls against the human papilloma virus. By then, children attending their 4th grade class at any primary school were aware that the country is home to one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Victoria Falls. But none of them knew that Zambia is making global records as a result of its high cervical cancer cases. When the vaccination was rolled out, Lusaka, the capital city, was the pilot location along with surrounding areas.
We didn't record any life-threatening side effects apart from small things like pain on injection. A few children developed very minor swelling, but generally we didn't record anything in 2013 which was scaring or hindering us to scale up. And also when we talked to the caretakers and the pupils themselves who received the vaccine, they accepted it. So that gave us impetus as a country that we can scale up human papilloma virus vaccination.
Having set the bar high with a targeted number of 50,000 girls, a lot of lessons have been learned from the pilot project.
with time we saw an increase in the number of girls that were accessing the services, meaning the acceptability had been very good. No major side effects were noted from the girls that we saw. What we found is girls complaining of pain at the site of injection, a bit of swelling on the site of injection as well, a bit of, some would say, no, they are feeling a tingling sensation where they got vaccinated as well. So these pain, swelling, redness on the site of injection were the common complaints from these young girls. So this is basically some of the lessons we learned, and we learned that majority of the girls, the age that we're looking for, were also in schools. So we knew that one of the delivery methods should involve schools.
Motivated by the response in the previous vaccination program, government has decided to reinvest the vaccination program. This time around, the immunization program against cervical cancer is being rolled out countrywide. Its official launch was held on June 24, 2019, alongside the commencement of the National Child Health Week.
We realized that human papilloma virus is the major contributing factor to cervical cancer. And now there's a vaccine which has been developed. So we agreed as government, from that pilot we did and the positive results we got, let's roll it out. So here now we are in 2019, on the 24th of June, during the Child Health Week, we made a bold decision to say, from now, human papilloma virus vaccine shall be included in our routine immunization schedule. For the start, we are going to target the 14-year-old girls, both in school and outside school. And we launched this, and we've started giving the vaccinations.
The commencement of the immunization program had a new ring to it. The cervical cancer immunization will now be part of the routine Child Health Week and will be done in June every year. For 2019, over 300,000 girls aged 14 countrywide have been targeted to be jabbed. Like other members of the public, the HPV vaccination has raised serious concerns and questions among parliamentarians.
In some rural places, that some girls are sexually active even as early as 12 years and 13 years, going above. Why specifically starting at 14 and not earlier than that?
The cervical cancer has broken out like locust in this country. Is it synonymous to other areas in the region, or is just prevalent in this country?
The sole reason of the vaccination, as given out by the Ministry of Health, is to prevent girls from harboring the virus and thereafter suffer from cervical cancer when they become sexually active. This, therefore, means that the vaccination is meant to give girls immunity before they become sexually active.
The reason why we are vaccinating is because we are hoping that these girls haven't already come into contact with this virus, for them to be susceptible to cervical cancer in future. So if we target, if they get vaccinated now, chances of them getting cervical cancer in future are very, very slim, okay? And those are the consequences. If you don't receive the vaccine, chances are that, once you get in touch with the human papilloma virus, you can actually go ahead and develop cancer of the cervix, which you're trying to prevent.
Mathematically speaking, girls that were 9 years in 2013 are now 14 years, or will turn 14 by the end of the year 2019. Coincidentally, these could be the same girls that received the vaccination 6 years ago and are earmarked to receive the vaccination once more. Like other vaccinations, several myths and misconceptions have been tagged on the HPV vaccination, with the West suspecting that it could be a plan for countrywide birth control in these would-be future mothers.
That's a misconception, because it's just a virus. It can't affect the young girl from having a child in the future. So maybe it can be a good thing, but it's a 50-50 thing.
It's a very good move by the government. Before the disease spreads very far, I think it can be curbed. It's a very good decision that the government has made. And I hope many should also just reciprocate and adhere to do the same, because it's a very important program.
balasema nyine tubaja bana notubakaleke kubala because ali afunika kubala bana afunika kubala so bantu banga kamba tibapasa babalesema nyine then tubaja manyine bakaleke kubala kusogolo iyai.
On the contrary, the Ministry of Health refutes the assertions, stating that the HPV vaccine is not a contraceptive, but simply a cervical cancer prevention measure.
There is no evidence at all which shows that it can cause infertility or the girls today when they become women failing to conceive. There is no that evidence. We've also heard some myths and misconceptions that the vaccine can also transmit other infections like HIV. That is not correct. This vaccine has gone through very rigorous assessments to ascertain its efficacy, to ascertain its quality, to ascertain its safety in our people.
We have other programs that might, target, like family planning methods and a lot of other interventions, and that's not our mandate. Right now, when we talk about vaccines prevent diseases.
For Rebecca, as a cervical cancer survivor, there is nothing wrong in administering the vaccine to the 14-year-olds because it is meant to protect them from contracting the virus.
We had the polio vaccines, we were vaccinated. Then now, even this one for vaccines against cervical cancer, I think it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. So we parents, let's just take our children there for vaccinations so that we prevent them from getting cervical cancer in the future. It's not that when they are vaccinated, in the future they will not get it. This is just a chance of reducing the virus, HPV virus, from attacking our children. Because before they are sexually active, it's better we prevent them from getting the virus.
Some parliamentarians also wondered why the vaccination is only being administered to girls when the carriers of the virus are boys.
Honorable Minister, in your statement you indicated that HPV can affect both men and women, but in your vaccines you are only targeting girls. What about young boys at the age of 14?
We are targeting girls because we want to prevent or challenge the disease burden that we have already noticed in our registry. So the major problem is with women, and 24.8% of all the cancers we're facing in the country are cervical cancer, affecting the women. That's why we are targeting girls.
While the primary target remains a girl child, government says it would have loved to also give the vaccine to the boys, but resources are limited. As for the concerns about the second round of the injection, the Ministry of Health says girls will only be given second injection in June next year.
Our target right now is the girls. Reason being, this is where the burden of disease lies. That is the reason why we're targeting girls. If in an event that we had enough vaccines, we can target the boys as well. In countries like Australia, they're actually targeting both. So for us, we are looking at what we have right now. What is the best use of the resources that we have?
For now, what we are targeting is anyone who will receive the vaccine now, they need to come next year, June, for a second dose. But if some family members have concerns about a child who was vaccinated in 2013 and they have evidence, they have the card, they should go to the nearest health facility. The child will be examined, they will be talked to, and they will be guided how we are proceeding.
While successes have been scored in the campaign to reduce cervical cancer and subsequently kick it out of Zambia, there are challenges. Misinformation among members of the public who appear knowledgeable is one of the hurdles encountered. As a result, parents of prospective clients are skeptical about the process.
I think information which is not usually correct will come through many platforms as well. And now we have so many platforms that we're using, social media, that somebody can just type, something that they're thinking about, which they cannot substantiate. And it goes on the platform, and the way we are as human beings, we easily believe such things. And what we did was also to direct the public to the sites that were actually giving accurate, well-researched information. World Health Organization, Centers for Disease Control, Ministry of Health. So these were the sites that we were giving.
In the presence of misinformation, there is also lack of information in as far as sensitization and awareness is concerned. With the importance attached to the vaccination against HPV, Rebecca feels there is need for government to cast the net wide and reach out to all concerned groups.
The means of this vaccine, I think cervical cancer in the future will not be there because most people, most of young generation will be cervical cancer free. So that will mean it will be reduced until it goes out, to be phased out in future, I think. In the rural areas, I don't think they've got enough information. It's just in town, and I think they are still trying in town, but not in the rural areas. The information has not reached them yet, but Zambian government, I think it will go flat out to sensitize and vaccinate all the children throughout the country.
Further, in an effort to combat misinformation and build a well-informed citizenry, the ministry is working on a deliberate approach to raise confidence in the citizenry on the significance of cervical cancer immunization.
Can we do more? Definitely. The more people ask questions, the more we should be able to explain and ensure that everybody is confident in what we are doing. If you look at vaccines, I'm sure you and I probably can't even remember when chickenpox was a problem in this country, when polio was a problem in this country, and people were suspicious. What are they doing? They're bringing this vaccine. Today we don't see children who are affected by polio because these vaccines came in and they helped. And this is what we're looking at, that the future generation in this nation, later when we look in future, our children will basically be asking, what is cervical cancer? How does it look? Does it kill? How come we've never seen it? Because we have protected them and we're having a healthy and productive nation.
About 30% of cancers reported in Zambia are cervical cancer cases. No wonder the need for robust national programs that will address all barriers relating to the fight against the disease. Good news is that government has devised a cancer control strategy which will help control and hopefully eradicate cancer.
We are improving on our capacities and technologies to screen for various forms of cancer. Because as you know, for cancer, if you catch it before the lesion has transformed into a cancer, you can actually cure it. Or if you detect it early, then now with our Cancer Diseases Hospital and better availability of medicines and equipment and human resource, we are seeing quite a number of our people being cured of cancers or actually going into long-term remission, and they are doing well. So we are even able to support the other 9 provinces in the country through mentorship, technical support. There is better coordination. We are seeing improvements in the way we manage cancer information.
Meanwhile, Rebecca, as a cancer survivor who has now become an activist, is encouraging women and girls to take up the challenge and get screened for cervical cancer.
You women there with our children, let's take them for cervical cancer vaccinations, because it was not an easy journey for me to be a cervical cancer free person. I went under very big problems in assessing the treatment. But now the vaccine is free. You don't have to pay anything. So it's free. Let's take our children for vaccinations so that they will reduce the chances of contracting the virus.
HPV vaccination is Zambia's only hope for a cervical cancer-free women population in the next 6 years and beyond. Accompanying the vaccination is the need for the Ministry of Health and others linked to cancer control and prevention to build confidence in the masses in order to trust the vaccination process. A specific approach is therefore required to deal with the scourge of misinformation among parents of the targeted girl children. The envisioned future can only be achieved if and only when all affected parties play their part. However, the truth still remains that prevention is better than cure.
This is where we end this week's edition of News in Depth, where Macpherson Mukuka was looking at the importance of the HPV vaccine as well as the myths and misconceptions surrounding it. We hope you found the program informative. Be sure to join us next week at the same time when Pennifer Nyirenda will be discussing the impact of tax reforms on the mining sector. Remember also to like our Facebook page, News in Depth ZMBC, and leave us your feedback. From me, Katushi Bwalia, until next time, it's bye-bye and God bless you.